hey people. Don't mind me. I'm just stirring the pot. Just stirring the pot. Yeah. You know, it's Tuesday, so I figured I'd just get up here, start stirring the pot. Make all kinds of trouble and shit. So you guys understood what kind of person I am. Don't you know? We are clearly going to be talking about the coronavirus. I need to get this shit up out of here. And the pot too. Okay. We're going to be talking about the coronavirus once this dope-ass song finishes. I got a lot of different things to talk to you guys about. This is going to be a two-part transmission. So go ahead and lock yourself in. We're going to be having guests on. That's you guys in the second segment, the second hour. I'm going to basically fly through as much information as I have. And then have you guys on. And we'll start having a discussion. Having a college of ideas. Now, before I get started with you guys, I want to point you in the direction of our Patreon exclusive membership program. Ooh, shouldn't have flipped that up. And I want to say real quick before I get started and everything, this is why I made a huge deal about this at the start of the year, is because I'll do this work. It doesn't matter. But I'm literally not getting paid enough to sit up over here, lose my mind, try to help other people find theirs and do these types of things. It's not that type of discussion today. This is simply one about the coronavirus, all these other things that are going on, wargaming it, and more. So if you guys want to support this operation, think about becoming a Patreon exclusive member. I will be doing a exclusive members discussion this Friday. We were going to be talking about, basically preparedness, things that you could do in your life to basically get stuff under control. But there's so much information that's coming out like every single day. I'm kind of having to adjust on the fly. So other than that, if you guys want to join the operation, you want to support it, think about joining our Patreon exclusive membership program. I'm not here to pitch us and what we're doing. If anything, I'm here to break down what's going on. I think everybody can see that the world is increasingly getting crazy. I just kind of want to summarize it as this before we get into like all this stuff. I got stuff I want to talk about on the weekend, notes and stuff over here, and so much more. But I just want to say this, that the response we saw around the rest of the world, I don't want to say that it was the appropriate one, but I feel like because we're kind of trying to chase the curve over here in America, what we're going to see in the fallout of all these things is going to be a little bit crazy. I think that I really don't think there's any other way to say it. Just before coming onto the air, I was watching Andrew Yang Gang, former Democratic presidential candidate, who was working with the White House on how to provide universal basic income to people during the lockdown. Now, what I think we're probably going to cover in this transmission is not necessarily the virus. I'm not an immunologist. I'm not a biologist. We're going to be having some people on the show this week to talk about that. I'm not in the military. What we're going to be talking about in this transmission is basically the social impacts, the psychological impacts. That was one of the questions somebody wanted to ask me about. The mental health aspect of all this stuff that's going on, and so much more. I don't know anything about bioweapons, okay? I don't know anything about, all that other crazy stuff, but what I do know about is whenever shit hits the fan, whenever society kind of starts to begin to teeter. And I think that's kind of what people are having a hesitation about. So I just want to say this before I get into all the topics and stuff, because normally I have notes here where I read from it, but we have so many different things to discuss that I went ahead and made a separate Word document. And so, obviously, I'm having a hard time getting into this. I can't just fly through all these things. But I want to address one thing, and then I'll get into the global lockdown, the nationwide lockdown. What agenda does the coronavirus serve? And will coronavirus become the new climate change, and so much more? Before I get into that, I want to address people saying that we're fear-mongering. Fuck you. If you don't like what we're doing, you're more than welcome to hit unfollow. We've been here for several years. The only reason that people are paying attention now is because, well, they want to know what's going on. That's the sad truth. This is the type of analysis that we do for everything. And the fact that you're coming around lately, some Johnny come lately or some Susie Sudden that's got their emotions feeling some type of way, I'm sorry, we're not for you. I'm pretty sure somewhere on the internet I saw a cat with a Pop-Tart body shooting lasers, holding AKs, flying over a rainbow. I think that might be the page for you, because over here we're asking the hard questions. I hate to sound like a dick, but we have to get past this. That's why I got to start talking about like the emotional, the mental aspect. You got to get past your feelings to really start breaking down what's going on. So I'm sorry that, we're fear-mongering you because we're asking you to think a little bit different. We're shaking up your worldview. I'm sorry that scares the hell out of you. Imagine where the hell I've been for years, having to sit here and do this. So I'm sorry that we're fear-mongering. Get the fuck over it or hit unfollow. It's only going to intensify. One of the people wanted me to talk about how to mitigate panic and spread awareness. The best thing I can say is learn to barter and trade and get connected within your community. Another question we'll get into is, at what point will we see society break down into anarchy? Before, again, we get into all these other crazy heavy topics, I want people to think about this before we start getting tripped out. Go out into nature. Go out in your community. Go out to the stores. Go out and talk to people. Go out to... I've had conversations from gun store owners, from security guards to cashiers to people that are just working all over the place. And I asked them for their different perspectives on what's going on. Some people have said that this virus itself is literally a cover for Trump's trial. Other people are saying that it's a cover up for all the arrests and things that are taking place. Ultimately, if you ask me, the truth is this virus is kind of bringing people together. Yes, it's crazy, no doubt. But at the same time, you've got to look at the benefits of this. And I feel like that's why if you've paid attention to our Instagram story, why you've kind of seen me go back and forth. I'm trying to look at this chaos and what's coming down with it, but at the same time, how we can find the sunshine in the rain, what is actually going on, so we can begin to work on a solution. Start talking about things to get through this, not necessarily worry about the initial poison. So how to mitigate panic and spread awareness. Get out there in your community. If you ask me, I feel like this is a time frame for people like us that were doing this type of work in the first place. This is everything we've talked about and more. Did we prepare? Did we get connected with our community? Do we have values that are expressed publicly? I mean, people over here are tripping about prepping, getting your health intact, having proper hygiene, caring about things. I didn't realize that was an epidemic. But that shows you how far down the rat hole we are. So I'll try to save the rhetoric for everything else. And let's get into some of these topics. I think a better way to start getting into this stuff is with this question right here. At what point will we see society break down into anarchy? I think that's where we're at right now. People thoroughly believe that, and I've been saying this all past week, it's not necessarily the virus that I'm worried about. It's the panic of the virus that I'm worried about. It's the hype, right? The virus is contagious. So is hysteria. You see, people are freaking out, and I was talking about this with who, I forget who, but I was saying it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but at the same time, it's a cover for the economic collapse and so much more. People panic buying, people taking their money out of the banks. All this stuff is going to trigger what we're already seeing happen. And so when people don't even talk about, the virus and all this other stuff, they can't work past, well, what is this going to do to people? And then what is that going to do to society? You see, my problem is, if you can't tell, fuck authority as a whole, and the whole martial law, medical martial law, the lockdowns, the quarantine, all of that sounds like hell to me. You've heard me talk about it like on my story about how I can't wait for the parties and stuff that are going to go down during the quarantine, during the lockdown, because that's the type of person I am. I don't feel like America's going to do quarantine and lockdown very well. But because of this kind of slack approach towards getting our hands around this actual virus, we're going to see an extended quarantine. You got to think, what was going on in China happened for a good couple months, and they're just now getting back to work today. We're talking about, 15 days of self-isolation in a couple months? This is very, very dangerous. Troops being rolled out on the street, that fucking scares the hell out of me. Disappearing people, they're already banning gun sales. The question is this, is at what point will we see society break down? I feel like that's what we're seeing right now. We're teetering. And that's why people are panicking. And they're telling you, oh, hey, don't worry about that. Everything's cool. We've got it under control. Just take the money, get inside your house for a couple months, and we'll handle it. That's dangerous. That's allowing authoritarians to dictate to you what your life is meant to be. That's why I have such a problem with this, because we need to be informed, but because people aren't really aware of what they're preparing for, the dimensions of this thing and more, there's fear. And so they can profiteer off of that fear. I digress. But I asked the question, and I'll ask this again when we have guests on in the second hour, but what are your thoughts on the global lockdown that's taking place? This leads into what I was going to talk about later on about climate change, or the coronavirus becoming the new climate change. The reason I say that is because now we're seeing a lot of different Agenda 21 proponents being introduced into stimulus packages, being enacted across the world, releasing prisoners, free medical health care, controlling transportation, controlling finance, nationalizing businesses, all this other stuff. Very, very crazy. I think people have to understand that for every one post that I put up, there's at least like 10 or 12 that I'm just like debating on the whole time. Let me give you an example. While I fly down here to some articles that I have saved over here. This is why I tell you guys I should be taking the weekends off, but I'm too dang busy trying to keep up with all this stuff right here. This was this past weekend. There was a report put out saying that the U.S. will be overrun with coronavirus cases as the virus testing fails. Walmart, Costco, Target, Kroger, and top grocery chains are to be deemed, quote, critical infrastructures guarded by the National Guard to protect key distribution points. So there's a lot of back-end stuff happening in the background that people really don't pay attention to. And so I'm trying my hardest to inform you guys of what's happening on the front end. But when you start talking about the back-end stuff, people really start freaking out. You've got to understand, we've been covering this since like February. That's why shit's getting trippy. The fact that we've had military bases, this is something else I found out here lately in my own area. The military base, Kirkland Air Force Base, has no food. Like, I have friends and family that are in the military that go to the base over there sometimes. One of them got a tip to go get some food because everywhere else around here was running out of food. They went to the base, there's nothing there. The store shelves are empty, so even the military is preparing. But that's here locally. I was talking about that happening a couple weeks ago. Before they quarantined 11 military bases before they transformed them into actual quarantine facilities. So what people have to understand is it's the back end stuff that really paints the picture as to why we're going in on this in the way that we are. People don't. I'll say this and I'll get back into this. I am trying to get someone on the show to explain the initial 14-day quarantine period from whenever they left Shanghai, came to California, the whole process. I'm trying to get that for you guys because people need to know. You guys won't hear it whenever it comes from me, but I swear to God, if you hear it from someone else, you'll believe it. So thoughts on the global lockdown taking place. Italy being put into a state of basically martial law, the entire country being put on lockdown. And this is, again, what I was trying to illustrate before when I was saying talk to your community. People saw a video this past weekend of people in their apartments playing music. The same way that we saw in China, all those people that were wailing or singing together. This type of crisis, this type of insanity, all it's really going to do is hopefully push forward solidarity. That's what I was saying before. What this virus has done has allowed me to go out there and talk to people, not only about what the government is hiding, being lied to, the misinformation, why you shouldn't trust fake news, and so much more. I mean, my God, this is why I'm having like record traffic, is because people are sharing the news, people are wanting to ask questions, people are getting into the debates, they're going into the comments, they're looking at these types of things, and that's why we're doing it. But thoughts on the global lockdown taking place. I really think that this is part of an organized agenda, but outside of Event 201. I really want to get into that question and more in the second segment with you guys, the national lockdown, because I've had people from the Netherlands, people from Europe, people from Italy, people from all over messaging me, sending me videos and clips. This stuff is crazy. So the next question after that is the thoughts on the nationwide lockdown. I just want to fly through a few quick lists that I have right here, a few things. And I think this is the most important part of it all. I don't know if a lot of people caught this, but Trump declared a national emergency on Friday the 13th. So for someone like us, like I keep trying to tell you, we're conspiracy disguised as news. For someone like me, I feel like that's an important day to pay attention to. but the nationwide lockdown has included curfews, martial law, military bases running out of food, states hopefully beginning to retain power. We've heard last week that domestic travel could potentially be banned, interstate travel, which is kind of crazy. Energy security, and I think this is something I'll try to get into this week on the podcast episode. I remember reporting on it last year that California was going to begin rationing out not only water, but also power because of California Power, Gas, and Electric. They got bankrupt, so they're going to start having brownouts for the next 10 years. But they also are beginning to ration out water, 55 gallons for the next couple of years. And I think in like 2030, it's going to be like 50 gallons. But that's the idea, is to gradually introduce Agenda 21. They need a crisis like this in order to get everything they need. That's why it's that is why it is a perfect storm. That's why last week on the Global Watchman News, I tried my best to compare the COVID-19 scare to 9/11. Not only Tower 1, Tower 2, and Tower 7, but again, these socioeconomic and socio-political impacts, how it's going to affect the markets, how people's lives are going to be changed for years. If you really want the truth, guys, I'll say this and I'll get back into these topics. If you really want the truth, I think the idea is to hype up so much chaos, so much craziness. Oh God, what's going on? I freak out. I think the idea is to hype up so much chaos that we voluntarily give away our rights. Hype it up to a point to where it's hysterical, to where people are fearful, to where you see cashiers being yelled at because they're not checking out the food fast enough. That was the craziest thing. I talked to because whenever I went shopping this past week, I talked to one of the cashiers. I could just see it in her face. So I'm talking to her. I'm like, hey, how are you? She's like, oh, I'm all right, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, come on, tell me the truth. What's going on? She's like, well, they got us working 10 hours, 15 hours now. I'm used to working 6-hour shifts. We're having to come in early. They're having like little daily briefings before we get up in here. Just the other day, this guy's yelling at me because I'm not checking out his food fast enough and that there's not another aisle over there. And I'm just like, good Lord, how are you? She's just like, I'll be honest with you. I'm trying to keep my head down. And so when you don't talk to people, the cashiers, the nurses, the doctors, or the EMTs, or gun store owners, anybody that's out there, you're not really getting that secondhand knowledge of not only what's going on in society, but what's going on in people's heads. I really hope that makes sense. So to get back to this stuff, which is perfect because it's right what I'm talking about. Do people know what they're preparing for? Real talk. Do people know what they're preparing for? Are we just blindly going to accept the lockdown? Are we just blindly going to accept quarantine? I mean, my God, last week I'm talking about New York activating their frickin' National Guard, and people are like, hey, everything's fine. This is the way to go. This debate that we're seeing right now is of control versus freedom. And the very same people that are talking about, hey, get sanitized, get quarantined, take care of yourself. All these people who are going to start virtue signaling this in the future, these are going to be the same people saying, you don't care about Mother Earth? How dare you not take a vaccine? You don't care about taking care of everybody else? How dare you? You've got to understand how the hysteria works, the same way that people can call me a conspiracy theorist and, then they win. Just because you call me a conspiracy theorist doesn't mean that it wins. But that's the same thing. It's the hysteria and thinking that you can label things so that you give over your power. I hope that makes sense. So again, do people know what they're preparing for? How long will we be dealing with the coronavirus? These are all questions I've been asking you guys. But to get into some of the more meaty aspects of what we're talking about, I asked the question of what agendas does the coronavirus serve? Several people said mandated vaccines. People also said total social control using fear, depopulation, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, human microchips, globalization, martial law, as well as the Great Purge. This is not an easy thing. I think that's why I'm just trying to shoot off as many facts as I can without using the rhetoric in between. I'm not trying to directly, I'm not trying to say I have all the answers. I'm not trying to say, oh, it's this way or that way. I'm trying to provide the facts of not only you, the audience, but everything else that we see going on, like I said, in the peripheral. It's very, very dangerous. Just before coming onto the air, I posted about how in Los Angeles and in Ohio, they are actually releasing prisoners because they don't want them to catch coronavirus. We saw the very same thing happen in Italy. I can't help but think about, during these air quotes lockdowns, if we end up doing that, about a purge-like situation, about people, I don't know, say criminals, people who don't want to follow laws, individuals like myself who want to have raves or parties during quarantine, going out and doing crazy things. What I'm trying to say is, can we reintegrate these people during crazy times? What is that going to do? Like, I've really tried to paint the picture to you guys that Americans will not do quarantine, lockdowns, or anything very well. And because of this natural psychology we have, it's going to extend the lockdown. It's going to extend the quarantine, which is only going to enrage people more to do more crazy shit. And as that happens, antagonizing the system, as they have every right to do, the system's going to respond in an adversarial way. So that's why I'm like, we're in a weird position right now between control and freedom. Do we allow for more of this chaos to take a foothold, or do we try to stop it now? And I think that's the crazy part, is just yesterday, while I was watching Trump's press conference, and again, I've got to ask myself, if this is not an issue, why in God's name is Trump having so many press conferences surrounding the coronavirus? So while I'm watching him talk about this coronavirus, I'm watching all these other technocrats and scientists they have working on this thing in the background, salivating at the idea of being given power, salivating over the idea of, once we get Trump out of the way, we can start, working on the population. We just have to fear them. We just have to scare them. I don't know. This is very dangerous. This is a very, very tricky thing. So to get back to point, instead of rambling, I think people should really look at, again, the peripheral things that are taking place and why this is not simply just the virus. As I've been saying throughout the entirety of covering this, there's more to this disease than just the virus alone. That leads me to my next question of, will coronavirus become the new climate change? Will coronavirus become the new climate change? Same where they're like, hey, cut down your carbon footprint. Hey, care more about the earth. Stop eating steak. Stop driving like a Mustang. Stop driving like a gas-powered car, get an electric car. Will coronavirus become the new climate change? This is something I wanted to point out at the start of all this, dude. The war on disease is what I've called it. Right? And that's what Trump said today. I'm at the gym watching Fox. And he's just like, we have to have a war on coronavirus. And I'm over here running thinking to myself, good Lord, why are we about to have a war on a disease? I can't help but think of just, this is just me being facetious. Are we about to get military people, give them flamethrowers so they just start burning the air? This shouldn't be a war. Is China going to war with the coronavirus? I mean, it started from there. Why are we about to take all these drastic measures for something that seems like it should be relatively moderate? I mean, my God, we didn't even have the outbreak come here. So why are we having such drastic responses? Because it's a cover-up. They're talking about literally injecting $15 trillion into the economy, and it props it up for a couple seconds. I'm watching, who was it? I think it was the New York mayor talk about putting New York in lockdown, and I'm watching the Dow drop. There's stuff going on in the background that they're using the coronavirus as a cover for that people don't want to talk about. That's the sad truth. So as I say, will coronavirus become the new climate change? Really think about that. The war on disease. Already we're seeing things happen in the peripheral because of climate change. I'm just a dirty meat-eating savage, apparently. Right? I have toxic masculinity. You see, what will the war on coronavirus be? What will the war on disease be? Will coronavirus become the new climate change? And how many freedoms are we willing to give up? How many rights in the name of some invisible foe? Hush. Get out of here, coronavirus. You see what I'm saying? So we've really got to start asking ourselves, what are we giving over in the name of this? Morgan Faber just said coronavirus is World War III. I would have to agree because, yes, I'll get into that too. Dan of New York, he says chaos is a ladder. What we have to understand, God dang it, what did you just say? I got so fired up. Coronavirus is World War III. I think what I'm trying to say, instead of making bombs They get to make masks. Instead of making, rifles, they get to make hand sanitizer. Instead of being able to make chemtrail operations, they get CO2 reduction technology. I don't know, but you get the point I'm trying to make. Because this virus itself serves so many different agendas, we're seeing them all unfold. Yes, World War III has been happening. Yes, the depopulation agenda is in effect. We're seeing a total socioeconomic reformation, a paradigm shift, not only in our thinking, but how we're going to approach society from here on out. And the introduction of it is stuff like the lockdown. I'm not an advocate of it. But how many times have we talked about the technocracy, consumption versus production, your carbon footprint and more? What other way would these people be able to inject Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 without getting people to think about the scarcity? Lowering your carbon footprint. Do you see how the coronavirus actually is in alignment with what the United Nations want? I talked about this just last year, which is so friggin' crazy. It's like in October. No, they said that, yeah. I remember reporting on it and posting on it. You can still find it on the page. You might be able to find the episode. I'm not sure which one it is. But Tedros Ghebreyesus, the World Health Secretary General, World Health Organization Secretary General, said that by the end of October, they were going to run out of money. That the United Nations was going to run out of money in October. I thought that was so trippy. But as I hear myself talk about it now, well, what else happened in October? Event 201. Well, what other way to get massive amounts of funding worldwide than to announce a virus that is worldwide? Do you see, again, the background events that are taking place that we will never connect unless we have these types of conversations? You see? And so, again, just keep this type of stuff in mind. Will the coronavirus become the new climate change? So while we're having these thoughts, I think it's important that we also talk about what else is happening. For people over here in the Southwest, I was at Federico's the other day, grabbing me a chorizo breakfast burrito and some mini tacos. And I had a fantastic conversation with the lady that was in the drive-thru, because her kids are at home. Sometimes I give their kids chocolate whenever I go there. That's how frequently I go to Federico's, but shouldn't. So we're having a conversation about the coronavirus, the hype, and so much more. She brings up to me, she says, EJ, I think it's strange that nobody's talking about Trump's trial. I'm like, whoa, that's going on right now? She's like, yeah, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on, but all people can talk about is the virus. Mind you, we had never had the conversation before, this type of conversation before. She just brings it up with me casually while I'm waiting for my tacos. She's like, yeah, nobody's really talking about Trump's trial going on. And if they start locking stuff down, well, nobody's going to go pay attention to the trial. No one's going to know how to report on it. No information is going to come out. They're just going to focus on the virus. Well, what else is happening during this virus? Right here, Justin Trudeau served a criminal indictment. Phone, sorry, give me 1 second. Justin Trudeau served a criminal indictment. Tom Hanks was arrested, but we only want to talk about Tom Hanks catching the coronavirus. I'm going to read this little quick meme, this spicy meme that I posted onto my page to stir the pot. Hey, maybe I'll read it while I'm stirring the pot. Yeah, there you go. Really, really piss people off. Really, really piss people off. You see, because we're in the days of fake news and misinformation, people have no understanding of discernment. They don't know anything. So I'm going to read you guys this spicy little meme I put up because I think it's important. And before I do so, I think that people need to understand when we post those types of things, is to show you that regardless of how many posts, videos, episodes, transmissions, and things I do, there are people that are doing more than me being able to break it down in a deeper way. So when I post these things, you should pay attention. I'm not doing that just to be a jerk. I'm doing this to ask the right kind of questions. So yes, Gwendolyn, let me get back to stirring the pot. So what else is happening while we're hearing all about the coronavirus? Well, the CEO of Disney has stepped down. The CEO of Tinder, Hinge, OkCupid, and Match.com all stepped down. CEO of Hulu, Mad Men, L brands like Victoria and Bath & Body Salesforce, Harley-Davidson, IBM, T-Mobile, MasterCard, LinkedIn, McDonald's, and so much more. All kinds of CEOs step down. Oh, but don't talk about that. Focus on the coronavirus. And now you're beginning to see celebrities catch the coronavirus. Huh. So it's crazy how all these people that are mouthpieces for agendas are catching this deadly disease, but somehow surviving. And we're supposed to take their word that it's impending doom. You scumbags. I don't trust that at all. I don't trust it at all. So let me put the pot away before stirring it up. Again, I get carried away with my shenanigans. Before I read this, I really want to try to preempt it the right way, man. 80 Vatican and financial officials have been served the same criminal indictments for financial crime, pedophilia, child sex trafficking, and sex abuse. We've seen so many different crazy things go on with the Pedogate and the Pizzagate, the spirit cooking, and so much more. We would hope that there would be some type of response. People are saying in the comments right now, Oprah's house has been raided. There's a lot of different things going on. Sad truth of the matter. I mean, again, why did Bill Gates step down from Microsoft? Oh, but before he did that, he decided to send out all those test kits in Seattle. Why are all these things going on? But we're being told to focus on the coronavirus. How do all of these things coincide? So I'm going to read this little quick spicy meme, just a little bit of it, just so people understand what's going on, or at least my thought process on the matter. It says, this morning at 4:30 a.m., Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was served a criminal indictment by the U.S. for corporate and financial crimes. Media owners were instructed to brainwash everyone that Trudeau and his wife have the coronavirus, and that they won't be leaving their house for a while. Tom Hanks has been arrested 48 hours ago for pedophilia, and he is currently being kept in a hotel room in Australia, refusing to fly back to the U.S. The next celebrity arrests are Celine Dion, Madonna, Charles Barkley, and Kevin Spacey. They will all claim to have coronavirus infections. I think if we see Kevin Spacey come down with a coronavirus infection, I feel like that's how I'll know right off the bat that there's more to this than we're being told. You get what I'm saying? I mean, I'll just say that if Kevin Spacey comes down with the coronavirus and we start seeing more of these celebrities, these mouthpieces for globalism, begin to collect these or contract these virus, we're just in for a doozy. That's all I'll say. Continuing on, it says Italy's airports have been shut down as over 80 Vatican financial officials have been served the same criminal indictments for financial crime, pedophilia, and more. CEOs of some of the major world corporations have been indicted, /arrested, and some have been forced to resign, all in the last 30 days, such as the CEOs of the NBA. That's probably why they shut down all the games, saying, hey, look, we're not even going to have any games. All that money went right back either into their pockets or into their trials. You get what I'm saying? You see like how all of this stuff is just connected in the background, but they want you to focus on the coronavirus. Continuing on. Harley-Davidson, Bill Gates Foundation, Intel, McDonald's, and Disney. The Vatican Chief of Police. We've reported on time and time again, Cardinal George Pell, the second most powerful person in the Vatican, being charged with child sex abuse. Approximately 700 to 800 more resignations are coming in the next 3 months. The lab-created coronavirus was a cover-up for the mass mandatory vaccination agenda. Now it has become the biggest covert U.S. intelligence operation that the world has ever seen. This mass 158,000 arrest operation will remove and capture the biggest and corrupted politicians, celebrities, and CEOs, including global elites and bankers such as George Soros, UN officials, and the founders of Greta Inc. United Arab Emirates has completed mass arrests of their royal family and affiliates. I remember that happening a couple weeks ago. Then it goes on to talk about Harvey Weinstein and how he agreed to a deal in exchange for his testimony against hundreds of top Hollywood celebrities and their involvement in drug businesses, pedophilia, and child sex trafficking. Instead of a 55-year sentence, he only received a 23-year sentence in exchange for his provided testimonies against some of the biggest and most powerful names, including Prince Andrew of the UK, former President Bill Clinton, former Vice President Joe Biden. That's probably why we see him just openly, outright kissing kids, just like not even caring about how he's portrayed. You see what I'm saying? Just going ahead and putting it out there, letting everything think that everything's fine. Just, you've got to understand the psychology of stuff. Tom Hanks, as I said before, Oprah. People are wondering about Oprah's house being raided. That actually did happen. If you give me a second after finishing reading this, I can bring that up for you. Get back to it. It says Ellen DeGeneres, Quentin Tarantino, Charlie Sheen. We reported on that last week. Bob Saget, Kevin Spacey, John Travolta, Steven Spielberg, John Podesta, the mix of them sex cult and Pizzagate sex trafficking clubs, and hundreds more who were all directly involved with Jeffrey Epstein. And if you guys want to go read more about that, go to the actual page. It's bursting with comments and insight. But my point behind reading it on this transmission is to let you guys know we pay attention to that type of information. We may not post it. It's in the background. It is stuff that we pay attention to. But people need to know that besides this virus, there's multiple agendas at play. Some people within the QAnon movement are saying that this is the deep state cleanup, using martial law to arrest / protect deep staters. I don't trust it. They say trust the plan. I don't trust the plan because the plan has us give up our rights. You see. So what else is happening outside of shady things, from celebrities to politicians to influential people? There's a lot of different things happening. I think one of the crazier things, I'll say this and I'll get back into the coronavirus and more. One of the trippier things that I see happening with this virus is that it shuts down elections. That it shuts down people. It creates this idea that people won't be able to go vote. You get me? And I guess I just get this image of like Black Mirror, where we only have like one candidate, or we only have one candidate. We can't even go to the debates. They already have pre-programmed talking points, and we basically listen to how the agenda is going to unfold, and we either vote yes or no via our phones. Something about me, or something about that, seems a little bit dangerous to me. The automation of society, you see. And it's all under the guise of this. You see how coronavirus is simply not just a disease, it's a social plague. I think that's a good way to say it. It's a social plague. And with it, it's bringing all kinds of different chaos. Let me read to you right here a few articles and things, or at least move back on to the content. I said how many cases there really must be in New York City. I didn't go get statistics and stuff for you guys, but what is going on in New York City and how they're handling it and how that's going to unfold will kind of detail what's going to happen for the rest of the country. Like I said, just last week we talked about Cuomo activating the National Guard to help New Rochelle, the people that were in quarantine there. I just worry because there's check this out. This week alone, have you guys noticed an increased presence of police? I was going to say policia, but have you guys noticed an increased presence of the police? If you have, go ahead and either give me a little hand wave emoji or just go ahead and tap on that heart. If you have seen an increased presence of police, law enforcement, or possibly even military, go ahead and let me know. Because I here in New Mexico, I've seen a decent amount, dude. And I won't lie to you. Like, even just going to the gym, I'm seeing like 7 cops. That trips me out. I go over here to the store to go get me food. I don't like seeing cops or security watch me while I go get food. Why in God's name are we seeing an increased presence of police prior to them locking shit down? So again, what else is happening that they're, for our audio listeners, you guys can't even see it, dude. There's hearts and hands popping up right now. If you guys could, for the people that just put up their hands, please let me know what state you're in. You don't have to tell me like the city. Just tell me what state you're in, and I'll just list them off. Different states around the country that are experiencing an increased presence of police and law enforcement. This week we started by posting a video of law enforcement in Louisiana shutting down Bourbon Street. So South Cali, ATL, Albuquerque, Orlando, Florida, California, Virginia, Chicago, Florida. So many choppers in Hawaii, California, Texas. These are in Seattle. We are being told that police will only respond to real crimes and won't respond if they think it's petty. Texas, Miami, and Florida increased, but I blame the spring breakers. Detroit, Oklahoma, nothing yet in Toronto, the Bay Area, Vegas. These are all people who are seeing an increased police presence. Oregon, New Jersey, Bergen County. Today at Chipotle, had a few cops. I was grabbing lunch about an hour ago in Miami, Florida. Sweden, multiple trains of military vehicles. Lots of air traffic from the Army base in Colorado Springs. Wisconsin, New York City. Just before going to the gym, I saw planes, the military over here, Kirtland over here, running like surveillance drills. So again, why is there an increased police presence? Why did I just name Manhattan, Hawaii? Choppers are normal though. Austria, Vienna as well. Why am I listing these places? Why are we seeing a global lockdown being instituted? You see what I'm saying? That's very dangerous as a whole. And the fact that we're accepting this trips me out. There's no other way to say it. So thank you guys again for your contributions. We will be taking calls in the next hour. If you guys want to talk about the coronavirus, the police state, martial law, medical martial law, mandated vaccines, and more. But before we do all that, I just want to talk about, again, the economic impacts of what we're seeing with the virus, because people have been talking about it being like a cover for the economic reset. And this is something I have to figure out how to gear my mind to present to you guys. Universal basic income. As I talked about before, Andrew Yang working with the White House on how to provide Americans with checks in up to 2 weeks because of this lockdown. Well, how can universal basic income work? There's over 357, million or billion? 357 million people here in the country. How are you going to provide paychecks for all the working class people? You get what I'm saying? That kind of system only works with an infinite money printing system, with free money. I told you that before, coming onto the air, that they want to pay you to not work. How's that happen? How the hell does that happen? They want to pay you to not make your own money. They want you to take the fake money. You get what I'm saying? So how's that going to happen? Really? And I think that's something that that's a question I've gotten asked a few different times, because they're suspending mortgage payments out there in Italy. What happens for people here in America that have mortgage payments? I was reading over here on KRQE, it's our local news outlet, KRQE 13, that the water authority is going to, like for people who don't pay their water bill, if they're having like a turn-off, a notice order like that, they're not going to turn it off during the lockdown. So they're going ahead and saying that we're going into a lockdown. I think that's the craziest part, is the double speak of the information that's coming out right now is they're telling you that we're going to do this and we're trying to preempt for it, maybe for 2 weeks or an indefinite period of time. So again, the economic impacts, shutting down the country for 2 weeks or an indefinite period of time, who's going to pay for that? Where's the money going? Again, this is something that came up this past weekend. Zero Hedge put it up. I don't have the article here in front of you guys, but I have the headline. It says, plans for cash handouts gain steam in Congress as consumption collapses. That's right, because people are really tripping out about this, and they have every reason to do so. Lastly, why the COVID-19 rescue plan should be vehemently rejected. I'll try to break that stuff down in this week's episode. You got to ask this: what's going to happen? They're trying to shut down the economy until the summer. What in God's name is that going to do? They're trying to shut it down during spring break, during I think about the tourism industry. I think about all that money that's going to waste, or at least that money that's being saved. I'm not sure. There's so many different factors to this that it really does kind of make me lose my mind. I won't lie to you guys. Question I have right here is, what happens if the stock market fails or the money system collapses? I feel like that's where we're at right now. So when I talk about them having an infinite money printing system, the fact that we're living on this debt bubble of a society, well, how the hell are you going to shut down the system for 2 months? That's going to set stuff in an overdrive. You see what I'm saying? So the idea is to shut down, I guess, the old world order and begin to institute the new world order, the technocracy, the scientific dictatorship, the cashless society, and so much more. Give people fake money so they can spend stuff, give them the illusion of security, right? But take away their actual connection to reality. I'm not sure how to explain that better when it comes to financial terms, but give me time and I will. I'll say this and I'll read this article and I'll start wrapping stuff up for you guys. Somebody asked me the other day, should I pull my money out of the bank? And I don't want to say pull all your money out because, you know, you might get red flags. But the crazy thing is some people aren't able to get all of their money out. There's a run on the banks right now. People are pulling their money out of the bank. But whenever that happens, not everybody's going to be able to get their money. You get what I'm saying? I guess my response is this. Get your money back because those cocksuckers won't give it to you. That's the easiest thing I can tell you. Get your money. You can always put it back in. Don't worry. They'll take their cut, whatever. But get your money back before they try to take it from you. Because we don't know what's all going on with this. That's all I'm saying. Some banks are going to shut down. Restaurants are being shut down. Schools are being shut down. Events are being shut down. What's going to happen to the money? So if you want to get your money back, if you want to have access to it, this is why people in the 50s and in the Great Depression got out of that. They didn't trust banks. But because we live in like an automated and technocratic society these days, we give it over. You see what I'm saying? Printing endless amounts of numbers, fudging the system to provide quarantine payments. It's crazy. I'm going to just fly through the rest of the things I have here on this list, and I'll read this article, and then I'll start closing things up for you guys. You know, we get caught up in the details and not recognizing the authentic threat. Who stands to gain? And this is something I really, really want to drive home to you guys. The telecom industries, Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter. People have to be able to communicate. Doesn't matter if shit's going downhill, money's going up, okay? Doesn't matter. People still got to be able to communicate. We're seeing all these concerts and things go on, streaming. We're seeing all these, God dang it. I saw yesterday Arnold Schwarzenegger over there, like in his room, in his house, with his like two little horses, his old mini horses, talking about, oh, we stay inside. We stay inside. We don't go out now anymore. There's curfew. We listen now. Everything is okay. We listen. I wish I had that video for you guys, but I couldn't help but think to myself, this is propaganda. It's propaganda. This man has been bought and sold, and he's telling us to obey our masters. Mind you, this son of a bitch comes from like a Nazi family. Like his brother was actually like a Nazi-approved baby. And so now, a few years later, he says, oh, we stay inside now. We can't go out. There's a virus. See, you stay inside. You eat healthy. Have your vegan food. I'm like, Jesus. And in my mind, I can't help but think of just like that song from Rise Against where they say all of our leaders, all they do is fall in line now. The very people we would run to for solutions, they listen to orders now. They take them. That's dangerous to me. Because, oh, you don't want to be like Arnold? You don't want to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator? You don't want to stay at your house with your mini horses? No, motherfucker, we don't have mini horses. We don't have the money like you. We can't stay in our house for months, bro. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I saw that and that was propaganda because you're going to begin to see other celebrities stepping out to endorse this agenda. The same way that I'm saying Tom Hanks do it, Idris Elba, right? All these people who are getting in alignment with the agenda, obey your masters. Coronavirus is scary. Listen. And that's the same way that I'm talking about coronavirus becoming the new climate change. Do people pay attention to these types of things? Don't you goddamn tell me what I can and cannot do. If I want to poison myself and do degenerate things, you bet your butt I'm going to do it. But if I want to protect myself, I don't need people like you and whatever the hell it is you're trying to promise me and give me. That's not going to do it because you haven't cared before, and this is why it's dangerous to trust government. You haven't cared before, and this crisis shows me why you shouldn't care now. Because these cocksuckers are trying to literally come up with a vaccine in relative weeks and months and telling us that we should take it. This is dangerous. So again, Arnold, no, I will not stay outside, and no, I will not listen to my masters. I'll defy them. And I'll prove you and everyone else wrong along the way. So I had all this stuff. Who stands to gain? I just want to say this and start wrapping stuff up for you guys. Who stands to gain? The telecom industries, bro. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. This is why censorship is like a big thing right now. This is why I got to be careful about what I put up over there, because they're trying to figure out how to control the information flow. You get what I'm saying? Who stands to gain from this chaos? Logistic companies, telehealth companies, medical companies. You see what I'm saying? I mean, just whenever I'm at the store the other day, I see this article over here on Time Magazine. They're talking about natural medicine. So what is that about? If we know that there are cures out there, why in God's name are we not promoting them? What is happening with this virus is very deadly. You say, who stands to gain? The telecom industries. The telehealth industries. You see. Keep this type of stuff in mind. I got all fired up talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Lost my point of view. I'm going to just fly through these and I'll get in this article for you guys. The coronavirus is a cover-up for central banks. Some people say that it's a cover-up for people who have accepted 5G. There's contradictions in information about the deaths by the flu versus the coronavirus. Some people say that it's way more hype than necessary. The more that people feed into the fear, the more power we give over, i.e. forced vaccinations. Somebody asked me this question of what should people do to survive? What is the survival strategy? And I have to ask the question again of how long are we going to be dealing with this? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a couple weeks, a couple months, and so much more. It's not a bug out type of situation where you're running to the hills. I'm not sure yet. But there's so much more going on in this that people really need to pay attention. You're hearing a talking point go out there that's saying, oh, this will end during the summer. If all quarantine procedures and everything goes the way that we want it to, it'll be done in the summer. Well, it's not done in the summer, mosquitoes. Or better yet, how come we're not talking about those locusts over there in Africa making their way to China? So even if this does get done in the summer, we're still going to have other mutations and things to deal with. Just so I'll say this, and I'll start getting into this article right here, guys. Remember that the elites have run to their bunkers. I posted it last week, didn't really talk about it on the podcast this week or last week, but I will this week. The elites are running to their bunkers out in New Zealand. Again, I already went over, Disney, Tinder, Hinge, Mac.com, Hulu, all the other people, the CEOs that left, Bill Gates, Microsoft, Oprah's house being raided. There's stuff going on. Remember, we're not part of the elite. So when you hear people saying, oh, there's too many people, we all need to die, it's going to be that person that dies. The elites are running to their bunkers. There is something going on. I've got no idea. I'm doing my best to try to figure it out. But because we're over here not really taking this serious, having that kind of a lackadaisical approach towards this, it's very dangerous. Real talk, dude, like realist of all talk, I think because Americans have been conditioned and programmed by comedians and jokes, right? Trollish niggas and shit like that. We literally don't have the mindset to respond to this. That's why my inbox is flooded up with questions that are just like common sense. We've become so detached, we literally don't have the mindset to break this down. And it's very sad, dude. Like real talk, I legit think that people they've been programmed to say fake news or misinformation or, oh, that's crazy, bruh. Or, to treat everything as a joke, that I really don't think people know how to be more serious or how to really get involved. And when I told you guys just last week that if you didn't try to build anything up until this point, you're going to have a real hard time now. I mean it also mentally and emotionally and spiritually. You see what I'm saying? I didn't just pop up here. Freedom Faction didn't just come out of nowhere like, oh, he's here. No, I've been here. This mindset's been here. But because people knew we were here, they chose other things. Long-time listeners haven't. This is why you guys, this is why long-time listeners understand I have a villainous hatred towards Bill Gates. Does it make sense now? Not only for the chemtrails and the vaccines, but all this bullshit. Long-time listeners understand I have a villainous hatred towards this man for these types of reasons. But new listeners don't understand that you need to be mentally prepared, emotionally prepared, spiritually prepared. I saw somebody in the New Age community talking about how coronavirus is a message from the future, and I about jumped up out my chair yelling. I did, because this is what's happening. People are being taught discernment, critical thinking skills, survival skills, logic. We're being based on emotion. We're being taught to fear, scare, trip out, react. Don't match your fear with preparedness. Why would you do that? I mean, shucks, wasn't it the Surgeon General who actually said, stop preparing? Stop buying, Trump said, stop buying so many groceries. So whenever you're listening to people who are designed to disenfranchise you from your power, knocking you off your game, they need that. But that's what I'm saying. So to get back to the point, I just want to say this in closing, that I don't think people really are mentally or emotionally equipped to deal with this type of stuff. When you got people blissing out on Netflix every other day, or trying to turn on sports and get distracted, willful ignorance, cognitive dissonance, and stuff like that, when we've been told and trained to ignore things and laugh it off, it's not real. That arrogance is going to come back to bite you in the butt. And I thoroughly believe that that's what we're experiencing now. That American arrogance, thinking that we will not be infected or affected, is going to hurt us, dude. As it already is. So I'm not sure how much time we have left, but I want to read this quick article that comes from World Truth TV. It's by Eddie Levine, and I'm just going to read a few of these things. And it's just to put it into perspective, because every time we look at these kind of coronavirus predictions, unfortunately they come true. But I also think it's important for us to jump into the future, so that when we begin to see these things unfold, we're not caught off guard, we're aware. It says 10 predictions of things to come. Plan accordingly. It says the hospital, and again, I'm not advocating for any drastic measures, authoritarian measures, or any of this type of stuff, medical martial law, any of that type of stuff, but you're going to see it. This is why I spent like basically 2 weeks, 3 weeks sitting up over here trying to talk to you about improving your immune system, not being caught in quarantine, taking care of your health. That's why I spent all that time telling you, you need to take care of yourself, because you're seeing all kinds of things being set up to rob you of your health, your rights, your individuality, and your freedom. Be aware. 10 predictions of things to come. Plan accordingly. And this was said by Eddie Levine over there at worldtruth.tv. It says 1, hospitals in New York will shortly be completely overrun. 2, the intensity of the desperation among the unprepared masses will shift from the scared stage to the violent stage. The little timer just popped down. 3, we will soon see entire cities locked down in the U.S. 4, unless the roads are totally locked down within 6 to 8 weeks, many people within the cities will begin to flee. 6, the run on guns and ammo will expand into the runs on communication radios. 6, there is a possibility that President Trump may use the nationwide lockdown situation that's unfolding to dispatch the military police to arrest all anti-American traitors. Whoa. There's 7, 8, and 9, but I can't read them right now. 8.5 and then 10. I'll put that link in the description bar below so you guys can go check it out. It's a very, very interesting article. But I want to say this in closing, because we're going to take a quick break and then come back with your guys' calls and more. Get control of your mind. Practice self-discipline. This quarantine can either be a boot camp or it can be a prison. Whatever happens is all dependent on you. The information, you're able to deal with it how you see fit. I'm just getting prepared any kind of way I can. Hopefully, if we do end up going into a quarantine or some kind of lockdown, I can come out and show you guys something. I'm not sure. The point is this. Things are intensifying, and it would only be foolish to act like it's not. But that's all I really have for you guys and gals. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys and gals, stay vigilant. Expose lies and share truth. This is Noisera, Freedom Faction, out.